flipped a coin, okay? You and me. You and me. Coin flip is sacred.
Y'all ready for a show today, baby? Go time, baby. We've been waiting all week for this. This is where it happens right here, man. We man up, we stand up. We man up, we stand up. We all we got. We all we got. We all we got.
Hit anything that moves. We're playmakers, man. We the best, nothing less.
You don't like this? Trust me, you don't like it.
We're between the white lines. This is football. Welcome to the big league. I won the toss. I took the football. Drive it down that throat.
Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your skull? Hey, every season is full of defining moments. Let's make this day a defining moment for us in our quest. Game time! Game time!
Welcome, everybody, to a very special bonus episode of the CoinFlip. Obviously, next Wednesday night, we will kick off episode 1 of the 2019 NFL season. But first, we have live college football tonight. We have live new college football tools that just debuted about 20 minutes ago on the website. Slack is hopping. And more importantly, we have one of the best college DFS analysis guys in the country, not only joining us, but joined the team late last fall and has been a huge asset already. Bobby Burger, at BobbyBurger41 on Twitter. Bobby, how you doing tonight?
Doing good, brother. Appreciate the intro. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's been a high-paced last 3 or 4 weeks trying to get everything locked and loaded while juggling some away time with the wife last weekend. But I'm excited for college football. I'm heading back home tomorrow to Oklahoma to do my 23rd annual, my main fantasy draft. I say main in the sense that I have the most pride in it with all my high school buddies and longtime friends. And then Sunday night, get a special treat with OU playing late. We're got tickets to that. I'm going to go watch OU in Houston Sunday night before heading back. How are you? And you got any football plans this weekend, or just watch it on TV?
Of all things, I was supposed to have a bachelor party in the Bahamas. We decided flying into a hurricane wasn't a good idea.
Probably set that one out.
Yeah, we're going to sit that one out. So actually, we're regrouped, and we just decided we're going to go to Las Vegas.
Nice. Get you some super contest action.
Yeah, exactly.
So for people that don't know, Bobby, why don't you give us just a brief background of you? Obviously played college football as well. Just kind of talk up college football a little bit after, and then what led you to this world, the DFS world, and your podcast that you're on weekly.
Absolutely. I actually started at University of Dayton. I played defensive end. Was there for 2 years. Then I transferred up to Notre Dame and joined the team as a walk-on. So I had to sit out the first year for transfer rules. And then after that, I actually earned a full athletic scholarship for the football team at Notre Dame. So I played 2 years, 2009, 2010. Last 2 years under Coach Weiss, and last year under Kelly. I actually graduated with a degree in economics. So you mesh economics and football together, you get DFS, and that's how I got interested.
Nice. And do you still live in that area, or are you?
I'm down here in Cincinnati, Ohio. I know we got some some GC folk down here in Cincinnati, Ohio, repping it.
I saw the Bengals reference. It must be hard to be a Cowboys fan these days isn't real easy, but Bengals fan, that's got to be a little rough.
It's brutal, man. Bengals, Reds, you can call me everything, but you can't tell me I'm not loyal.
Yeah, that's exactly. Did you have a favorite college growing up before playing? I mean, or was that just general?
Notre Dame was always my favorite. Actually,
was
my dad played at Notre Dame of all things.
Okay.
So I had no choice in the beginning, and now I'm just a huge fan of Notre Dame, maybe a little biased. And that was all well and good until my brother decided to go to Ohio State. So,
I was going to say, I know your brother played as well and has been on a few NFL teams, traveling a little bit as well. Yeah,
so he actually just started med school. So we're going pro in something else other than sports.
There we go. Doesn't last forever, as we learned last Saturday with Mr. Luck. So this pod's going to be quick, action-packed, no different than the coin flip. We definitely don't want to drag things out and get them on, but we wanted to hit, in a way, DFS college football is a niche type deal, no different than golf was 2 years ago. Golf, I would still consider a niche, but it's definitely gained some steam. I was shocked when I saw a 222 10K up top for the Thursday night slate. You wouldn't have saw that last year. So I think I don't know if there was technical overlay, but it was, 20 short or so, which isn't terrible for a Thursday. So I hope they don't like cut it off just because of tonight. There's a lot going on. Saturday's a big slate. They have another decent slate tomorrow. So it's encouraging. I hope we can help grow the industry just like we've done in golf. I know there's many other providers, good friends of ours that have big emphasis and focus on college football as well. So hopefully with them and everybody else, we can help grow it up to get, some bigger pots and bigger pools in there. As always, rate and review us on iTunes, Instagram, Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, Twitch. It pays off. Monday night, we give away $500 in contest entries. Next week, we will give away some more stuff. May have a special surprise coming out next week, and you're going to want some of it. If you so listen to us, and then you do all that, you get an entry for everything you do. If you review us on iTunes with a rate and review, you get a double entry. 2 of the winners last week were from iTunes review, so it's obviously we put emphasis on it because it helps us out a ton. And so if you do that, we appreciate it. Right now through next Sunday night, September 8th, we have a massive offering, our biggest discount ever. We're giving 25% off everything we have right now. We have monthly and monthly and yearly packages. Use the code NFL and you can take 25% off our content package, which is everything we've always provided and will provide. All sports are included in that. So college football, NFL, golf. We've done some testing with MLB and NBA that went really well this summer. We're looking to set that as full-time next year. If those sports come on, it's all in that price. And then we've introduced 2 add-on packages this fall, a premium tools package for football and one for golf. The golf will come out for the fall swing, probably mid-fall swing is what we're aiming for, do a soft launch there and do some testing. The football package includes both NFL and college football. We have a free preview through Sunday. So if you get on the site now, you can check the football packages out. And we just released 3 more tools tonight. Check them out, see if you love them. You have through Sunday to check them out for free. You got season-long cheat sheets. So if you want to do your draft, we have that. We have in-season stats. We have matchup targets. We have red zone reports. We have a proprietary kind of lineup matchup sheet. We have a customizable weekly sheet that's just amazing. And when it goes full launch, that's the one thing we really haven't full launched yet. I was telling Bobby about it before. It's going to be awesome. And then we just put out a team detail sheet for NFL that, it turned out really, really nice, and it's going to give a huge advantage in the industry. So come check them out for free. You have 3 days to, look it all over and see if you like it. College football, we're going to have much of the same. We released the first 2 tools tonight. So if you want to play Friday and Saturday slates, we have projections up there. You can sort it by time, by slate. DraftKings, FanDuel, doesn't matter. Very user-friendly. Rick's done a good job. Rick Rungood helped me build them, and he's done a good job doing some videos as well. So every tool has a video with it that you can watch for the first time. And then here in the 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to come back and do some live tools where he's kind of sitting down and quote unquote interviewing me in a way to say, how do you use it? What are you looking at? And we'll probably do the same with Bobby as being a college football lead analyst for us as well. So with that, again, code NFL, 25% off. Don't want to spend a lot of time on that. Before we get into strategy and predictions and all that, Bobby, how was your 2018 season? I don't know if you're a big bettor. I do know how well you did DFS. Walk us through some of your highlights, and then, just how DFS college football changed for you in the last 12 months rolling into this year.
13 months ago, we didn't even know college football existed. It came out of nowhere on us. We just scrambled to kind of put things together there. Actually won 3 of the 222s last year, actually on single bullets. So had a good year, a couple top 10s in the mid-range tourneys, and it's definitely a profitable year. And I hope to, kind of build on that this year now that the contests are bigger. I know you said that earlier, Gup, about the contest tonight. They're, just filling for the 222 tonight on a Thursday night. that had zero chance of filling last year. So I really think college football is heading in the right direction. It's getting more popular. It's growing a little bit, at least judging by this week.
Did it fill right before? I couldn't tell because I was driving, but I knew
it was close. It was about 10 short.
Okay, yeah. So it was fine for them. They didn't lose nothing. For me, it was. You're right. Like I think we found out. I don't even know if it was 2 or 3 weeks before that they were going to offer it. So no time to build anything. You're kind of going on the fly. College. We'll get into the strategy and the differences from NFL. There are things about college football that makes it a little more difficult for multiple reasons. A, the requirements, and then B, just not enough providers out there collecting data that we like to see it in. Fast forward 12 months, there's definitely enough out there. I think the betting angle from me helped a little bit. I did well in college football. It was profitable for me, not near as well as you. And then our buddy Adon had a great year as well. So that's how I kind of found him and you at the same time. All three college football fanatics. You two are two of the smartest in the industry, so it's always nice to be friends with those kinds of guys. My biggest year obviously was the Murray deal. I bet Murray in the summer at 40-1. Me and a few buddies all went in on it. OG John was one of them, and so we did well. Huge return. Betting for me was a little down last year. I kind of tweaked some of the stuff I did this year. I caught myself getting too many volume plays out there, and before the season bets, I actually had a losing year for the first time in a while on college football. I did really well in NFL, but luckily, I had a 500% ROI on my preseason bets, and I had 6, and I think I hit 5 of them, which included the Murray bet. So that kind of saved me. But overall, I think that kind of stuff, all that stuff will help us as we have a little bit of an edge. Going into this year, before we get into actual strategy, and you do such a great job writing it out, had tons of compliments already, not only in your process article, but your first week one article, but just 4 or 5, is there any major losses or changes? NFL is a little easier because you have consistency to an extent, where college, you're always changing. Coaches are moving up, players obviously leaving for the NFL, graduating, whatever. Are there any 3 or 4 big spots that you're interested to see how that team or the situation does this year because of exiting players, or like a Moses that's already been out for the year for Bama? Any key spots that you're looking for?
That's a good point. There's a lot of turnover in college football, just like the NFL. I think there's 21 out of 130 new head coaches. That doesn't even put into play all the coordinator turnover. A couple big ones for me are Florida State. They brought in Kendall Briles, who is a air raid guy. So then the question becomes, how do we account for that? We got the stats from last year, but Briles is a whole different offense. But we can look at some of his tendencies at his previous stops at Houston and FAU. I'll write about that in the articles. And then you have Ohio State. They actually lost their defense coordinator. They got a whole new change in defensive philosophy. I hear they're going to be a lot simpler. So we'll see how that shakes out. I got some thoughts on that in the article coming out on Saturday. And then I know you asked for injuries, Gup. I mean, just like the NFL, these injuries matter. Speaking of the NFL, you look at the Falcons last year. I mean, Deion Jones was a stud linebacker. Once he went down, the Falcons were terrible on defense. And in college football, you only got 85 guys. There's no free agents, obviously. So these injuries can have a huge impact on these teams in defense. It's something that at GupsCorner we're going to keep track of.
Well, not only that, you in the NFL, even though it's a backup, it's still an NFL quality player, however you slice it or dice it. In college, it could be a true freshman. It could be a sophomore that's never touched the field. The drop off can be a lot more, a massive of a drop off from a starter to a backup in college and the NFL. Now, obviously, there's some guys in the NFL, if they go out, it's a major loss. It's not a blanket statement, but it certainly changes things. So before the deep dive into your strategy, having your background similar to mine, you played all the way through college football. Is there anything that you think either A, gives you advantage, or a way you look at the game differently than maybe someone that's, a number cruncher or a stat guy, or, and I'm a huge analytical guy in golf, and I trust the numbers a lot. There's a lot bigger of a sample size at times, but I still use some of the things I see on the course, or if I'm there in person, I adapt to the player. And college football and NFL, I use a lot more of my, 17 years of playing experience and understanding and some of the relationships I have in the industry, which I know you have plenty, that sometimes we can get information that others can't, and especially different zones of the country. So Big 12 country, I have several, and I know now adding you're a little bit different zone. And so is there something, I don't know if you can give advice, but is there anything that comes differently across your eyes than what you think someone that's just looking at numbers all day may do?
100%. It's a big help, and I know you think a lot the same way, Gup. The easiest example is when a wide receiver shoots past the cornerback down the field, and the cornerback stops. All of a sudden, the wide receiver's wide open, and everyone's like, "Dude, that was the cornerback's fault." It's like, no, it was actually the safety's fault. He hit over the top. He just blew the covers, and that's why the guy was wide open. I think understanding the philosophies, like there's certain teams that run a cover 4. How do you attack a cover 4? Certain teams that like to play a lot of man. How do you attack man? Who's going to benefit from where teams should attack man? And then you have different coaching philosophies. I'll give you an example. So Coach Weiss, his offensive play call was very NFL. Here's an actual play. It was bear with me here, one far, slot right, fat, ride 135, X on, Z comeback, double cadence check with me on 1. Whereas Coach Kelly is like, north 53 choice, go get him. Right. So there's all kinds of different philosophies as far as offensive style, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish, what your goals are as an offense. And, just kind of understanding that. I had 4 head coaches in 5 years of college. Having an understanding of that really, really helps me.
Yeah, for me, it definitely does. And then obviously, I think there is in NFL can be a bigger advantage. And one reason why Belichick's so successful is guys will, I hear it in the industry, and I don't care if they're analytical or not. I think analytics plays a huge part in the game. You can see that by the teams, what they're adding. But I think if you go strictly off analytics, you're hurting yourself a little bit, because you still have to understand game flow, strategy, and all that. And I think in the NFL, a team will play team X, this week, who's a cover 2, Tampa 2 zone type team. Yep. And a certain player will annihilate it for 2 reasons, because of the strategy of the offense and the way that they can get them open. Well, then the next week, that next team that's playing them, the public, a lot of guys will go, well, the slot guy's going to kill him because they did it last week. And I was like, it's a totally different setup. They may game plan that guy out completely. Back to your point of understanding philosophies and coaching deals, which not everybody can do, and we're not going to get it perfect, but I do think we give it a little bit of an advantage with some of our inside there, and being able to talk people through that. And the Slack makes that a lot easier to express, because you can't just write all that down there. You'd write a book every week, but you can talk through, hey, why do you like this guy? Because last week that position, blah, blah, blah. And you kind of go, well, here's why this guy likes to run that. And it builds upon the community, especially as large as we are. So probably the main reason why everybody's here, and obviously your strong point, your process article is great. I tell anybody to as soon as you sign up, I'd read that for college football. I wrote one for golf, and this one probably blew it away. And I'm going to try to do something similar for NFL. And I'll just copy Bobby now, because he kind of got it down. But without going, obviously, soup to nuts, highlight the differences, the big differences from NFL to college football, the super flex, and then just your process in general. You had some really, really good points that I hadn't even really thought of. And especially your measure twice, cut once type philosophy. I thought that was well put. I do the same. I just never had worded it that way. So just a few things out of that. If someone's brand new to college football and they say, and they think it's going to be just like NFL, which is not, how would you talk to them if you just had 3 or 4 minutes to kind of tell them?
Well, it's similar to the one you wrote for Golf Cup. And if anyone out here plays DFS golf, I know it's the football pod, but I'd really recommend reading that one you wrote for Golf Cup. Very, very well done. It kind of breaks you through what to do each day. The challenge with college football is you got 20 teams, and they could be 20 different teams than you had the week before. And you got a slate of 10 games, and how do you simplify the slate? So my approach is kind of taking it game by game on a macroeconomic level at first, and really simplifying and bucketing those games into tiers, figuring out what teams you can cross out, and it's just whittling down the slate each day. And then there's a process written in there for what I do on Monday. For example, Monday I'll enter on my contest. I'll look at the slate. I'll look at what the contest payouts are. I'll do that, and I'll bucket my games into tiers. Tuesday I'll figure out what teams I need to X out, what teams I'm not even going to pay any attention looking to, and then also I'll really pay attention to the DFS fantasy goodness games. Like this week, Memphis plays Ole Miss. That went into the fantasy goodness tier. And those are the games that I want to really take a deep, deep dive in, because I know if I get that game right, it's going to be a good slate for me. But overall, it's just how do you whittle down 20 teams that were different than 20 teams you had last week into finding 8 guys for your roster. And the process article talks about that.
Talk to me about what a super flex is and how it impacts the slate.
Yeah, big change in the NFL. The NFL, I know we've all played. You have a tight end. You also have a defense. College football, there is not a tight end. All the tight ends are listed as wide receivers. There's no defense in college football. There is, like you said, a super flex. What a super flex, you can play a running back, you can play a wide receiver, you can play a tight end who's listed as a wide receiver, and then the big change is you can also play a quarterback at the super flex. So in your roster, 8 guys, you can play 2 quarterbacks in the super flex, and that opens up a whole can of worms. But it also, I think it provides a neat and interesting strategy and approach to it when you have a flex, because there's a flex too, but then you also have the super flex, you can play 2 quarterbacks.
Do you just to clarify, when he says they don't play defense in college football, he's not talking about the Big 12. He's talking about there's not an option. there's not an option for defensive players or picks on there. And I can make fun of my own league if I want to, but do you always try, or do you care about this comes into the late swapping deal? And if you're a golf guy and that's all you ever played, and you're continue on with us in football because your subscription covers it no matter anyway, so you might as well. Now you have to choose whether you want to add the tools or not, but you still get all the content on the college football. They may not be familiar with swapping. Walk through that and then tell me how you play the flex or super flex when it comes to later slates or later games in the slate. Like tonight, did you want to have a BYU Utah guy there, or how did you handle it?
I think most importantly, it's you want to play the late night games like BYU Utah. If you have one of those guys in your lineup, you want them at the flex or the super flex. And that's important because if you go through the night and you're having a really good lineup, and say originally you had a player who was kind of a long shot flyer in your super flex, you could then change them for a safer pick later on to kind of guarantee your spot at top of the standings. But if you put that, if you instead didn't use the super flex and you had that guy at a wide receiver or a running back, you really limit your options as far as what your pivots can be late in the slate. And then also with college football, I mean, there's no injury reporting. So that's another reason why it is imperative to have your late night guys in that flex and super flex.
Now, do you use, I call it a 2-tag option, and that's just my own made up word. I don't know what people really call it, but do you try to have so what you just mentioned, so say you're going to do a flex at the late game and he's a, $4,400 sleeper. Do you try to have another guy like wide receiver or running back that's also in that game that, let's say he's a higher, say he's like 7,000 and the flex gets canceled out, but there's not many options below him money wise? Do you try to have another guy so you could try to get 2 5,500 guys if you got kind of held up in that situation, or do you just focus on late night flex?
I think that's a great strategy, just to give yourselves an option. Because if you have 2, low salary guys at the end of the slate, you're really limiting your pivot options. But like you said, and I actually like that term, the 2-tag. But if you have a high salary guy, low salary guy, I mean, the world of possibilities is wide open for you. So I think that's an absolutely viable strategy.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not going to harp that you have to set yourself up there. I definitely wouldn't pull myself off of guys I love just to make sure I had it. But if it fell to me that way, that's how I would try to line it up. NFL, I do similar. There's not the super flex, but I definitely, when I'm looking at the 3 o'clock games, and most of the time it's kind of like a puzzle. So you may already have the guys in there, but you just have to move one guy from, out of flex to wide receiver and another guy down and really not change your players. Just make sure you have them. Sometimes you already have it all lined up right. You just got to put them in the right slot so you can pivot later if you need to. And I know some people were talking about in Slack, and it's definitely a huge point because people aren't used to that. And you kind of mentioned, especially in college football, the injury reports are not required. College football players, universities do not have to say a word about any player ever on injuries, ever, which makes it difficult for fantasy players. And you kind of made a great point. It doesn't matter how much you're playing for. If you're playing, you should be playing within your bankroll. And if you're not going to kind of be around something Saturday morning, unless everybody in your squad is just a stone cold lock to play, there's no issues, I wouldn't be risking, that guy with the Q or, slow to warm up, and you walk away, because if he winds up out and you don't switch it in time, I mean, you're dead to rights in the slate. So it is a little bit different. It's no different than, and I don't play it much, but the NBA is one of the worst for the last minute. They have injury reports, but they're like, whatever, and most of the time it's like a minute before and so-and-so's out, or a minute right after lock and you're just dead. I mean, it sucks, but I mean, we all play the game as part of it. So paying attention to that, I think we're going to utilize the Slack and some things that Bobby has to update as much and as quick as we can. But we're also trying to manage our own lineup. So you have to do a little bit of responsibility on your own. And I've already went to follow Bobby. And I mean, I always followed him, but I was trying to see some of the people he's following, inside information guys, beat writers. Obviously, Big 12, I have several. OU, obviously, have plenty. But some of these other areas that I don't, I may not know them, but if they're a beat writer and they like to break the news, that's a great strategy. And even if you don't want to follow a bunch of people, find the 20 or 10 or 8 teams you're going to be keyed on that week and just follow those, and then unfollow them if you don't like them no more. Back to that point of, which I never thought about. It's almost like a golf tournament week to week where you may have totally different course, totally different guys. Same thing in college football. You may have 20, you have 12 different teams that you didn't even look at last week. So now you don't have that continuity of seeing week to week to week and studying them, because you're only going to focus on who's playing. And so it's really a unique sport. And I think people will love it if they start getting into it. With that, do you let the teams that are in the slate dictate your games and your contests of the week? Like, I'm going to go cash, I'm going to go GPP, or is it pretty standard? You just want to see how comfortable you are with the pool overall, but you're going to play what you're going to play. It's just how comfortable are you? How do you strategize that week to week?
Exactly. I'm more of a tournament player. I'm going to put in my set bankroll each Monday, and I'll kind of go through the week. And if it's a week where, hey, I'm really not feeling it, I can always remove some entries. But if it's a week where I'm seeing some prices, I'm seeing some guys that could be under-owned, I like where the lineup builds are, or maybe like you said, I'm talking to a beat writer and got some information that maybe other people don't, I can always add more entries as the week goes on. So it's kind of a feel out to how that week is shaking out as I'm doing research on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But
is there ever a time where you change, like, I'm going to play the 222 every week no matter what? Or is it, this week I don't feel like putting a bullet in, so I'm just going to do more in the 44 or the big $10. Do you ever pivot like that, or is it pretty standard?
That's a good point. I mean, take this week. There's a big slate for tonight, Thursday, and then Friday, tomorrow night, and then Saturday. I made the decision early in the week. I mean, we don't have any data on any of these teams. There's no preseason games. Like, it's really tough to find information, and it's a lot of work to really break down these games based on basically just guesses. They're educated guesses, but they're guesses. So I said, I'm just going to play, on Thursday and Saturday and kind of punt the Friday slate. I'd rather do really well on 2 slates than just spread myself too thin over 3 slates. So that's what my strategy is this week.
Yeah, and sometimes you can take that one or two ways. You can say, well, if everybody's in the same situation as me, I feel I'm probably going to be as prepared as anybody. And so what 2 slates am I going to be more prepared than everybody? So I'll load up on those like you did. And some may shorten their bankroll each night and want to play all 3, the degens out there, which, I went light tonight. I did a bullet lineup in the 222, and that was it. Mainly because I didn't have time to do a ton of deep dive last night. I was booked up at work all day today. So I read your stuff, obviously, then I had my own kind of notes from last year, which I've changed a little bit after reading your process. And, and I knew I was only going to have time to try to get one solid lineup in and then wait for injuries at the very end. And so I wasn't even going to mess with any kind of 3 or 4 or 5, 10 lineups. And I may do more Saturday instead of that. I'm going to be driving to Oklahoma tomorrow. So at most I'm going to do one lineup again. I think we bring that up only to tell people it's okay to get, and I'm OCD. Trust me. I like to do the same shit every day, all day. I eat the same food for breakfast. I mean, I'm as OCD as you get, but it's okay to get out of that zone and go, I'm going to be with family. I'm going to be traveling. I either take it off if you're not all into it and you can't put it. It's okay to take a week. There's 52 weeks of like 10 different sports. You're always going to have things that DFS or whatever. And same with betting. Like, don't force a bet just because you feel like you have to do it. And so it's a big deal for bankroll management, especially with when we start in 2 weeks. You're going to have fall swing golf, college football, NFL. I mean, you're going to have bankroll management is going to be so massive in the if not only our community but the industry, and also means you're going to have tons of opportunity. By the time we get 6 weeks from now, you probably will have a game every night, whether it's NFL Monday night, the Tuesday, Thursday night college footballs, Saturday, Sunday NFL, golf locks Thursday. I mean, you'll have all the options in the world. So it's okay to take the first week of the season and go light. I know it's hard to not do because we've been wanting for football for how many months now, but we're all about bankroll management. So it's a good point to bring up. We kind of already talked about the differences in college football and NFL. Is there any final thoughts just on this the strategy in general before we actually go into kind of week 1 Saturday main slate talk?
I'd just like to reiterate the point you said about being around your computer Saturday. For example, Mississippi, Ole Miss, or Mississippi State, they just announced 10 players are suspended. We don't know who those players are. And we're going to probably find out Saturday morning. Right. I mean, that's 10 players of the football team. That's going to make a big deal. So like you said, it's a long, long year. I know you got a lot of articles, podcasts on bankroll management. I highly recommend them for people kind of just getting started into it. But if you're not around Saturday to figure out what's going on with Mississippi State here and some other injuries, you're kind of swimming uphill or swimming upstream, so to speak.
It's difficult. I mean, it's hard to get it all in, especially if you're a multi-sport guy. It's one of the reasons I cut out MLB and basketball and stuff was I was at a disadvantage trying to be in everything as opposed to focusing on things that I felt either I could get an advantage in or I had a pure passion in. And those two things are golf and football. I support the other sports, especially the guys that have come on and done some free, D-Rock and Preston have done an amazing job. I mean, we've had so many winners in MLB, it's ridiculous. So we're going to continue to support that brand, but it doesn't, I can't be hypocritical and go say, well, I'm going to start playing these things. I still don't play them because I have bankroll set for, and then you throw in betting with it. And, all of a sudden, I mean, it's a lot of money you could be throwing out there and you got to be smart about it. And I think as legalization continues to spread, hopefully communities like ours become attractive to people to, how do I do this? Have fun, but be responsible with it. Because it should be disposable income, but let's not lie to ourselves. Some guys don't. Some guys are playing shit they shouldn't be, but which I'll never condone, but I'm going to still try to preach it so they try to be smart about it. So getting into the main slate, looking at our projections on the site, it's a really neat. We only got 2 tools out for college football right now. We got like 5 or 6 for NFL. These things are going to be growing in the next week or two as we're firing them out. You can select DraftKings, FanDuel. Right now, I could select the Friday day or Saturday day. Then within each day, I can select the main slate, the night slate, the afternoon slate. And as I select it, it filters out the guys that are not on that slate. If I'm going to do a showdown, 2 teams only, I can select that. Within the stats underneath, it gives you a guys in there twice, and it will give you his utility and his captain pricing and their percentage of salary. And then kind of their value. NFL, it does that. College, it will get added, kind of telling you basically how much dollar per point you're getting out of the projection type deal. You got the over under for the game, and then you got the implied team total and the point spread for that game on any given slate, any given time. You want to look at quarterbacks only, you can do that. Wide receivers, running backs, obviously. You can isolate down to certain players. If you want to compare like 5 players, you can go in there and click all 5 of them, and it'll just show those 5. It's really what I had in my vision and brain was one thing, and then Rick did a really good job getting it out. And it's just the beginning. It's going to continue to grow, and especially with Bobby's input. So with that, as you're on Thursday now, you kind of had a different week this week, having multiple slates to prepare for. Where are you at in your process? And do you have a few sleepers that are sticking out to you that we could give little freebie teas to the guys out there listening?
Yeah, you're right. It's been a kind of a crazy week with the Thursday slate. Kind of dove deep into that. For Saturday, I have all my teams bucketed into tiers. I'm just starting to work my way kind of down the slate, and I've done a few games already. One guy I'll throw out there is this running back from Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Asim Rose. Some people call him AJ Rose. He is stepping in for Benny Snell. We know Kentucky loves to run the ball. Toledo, they lost a lot. I think they're going to regress. They're really small up front. You look at the Vegas total, it's Kentucky minus 12 or 13 or so. I think Asim Rose is just a phenomenal play this week, just given the situation, the matchup, and the Vegas score.
How do you think the replacing the Memphis, their backfield and stuff, and that team in general, are they still going to be shooting on all cylinders, or is it a big drop off from what they had last year?
Memphis is crazy. I mean, they lose their offensive coordinator seemingly every single year. It's wild. And like you talked about, they lost Darrell Henderson, Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard's looking pretty good for your Cowboys right now, Gup.
He is.
They do return Patrick Taylor. He was good last year, but there's a couple other guys who are backups, and they do still have Brady White back at quarterback. I like Coxey, the wide receiver. He's 7.8K on DK this week.
Mm-hmm.
But you're gonna have a lot of plays in that game. I mean, I think that totals, right around 70 points or so. So there's a lot of plays in that game.
So one thing I was going to ask you, and it happens a lot early in the season, and there's a few on this slate. When you have a Bama versus Duke, how do you analyze the ass whooping Duke's going to take versus the starters returning their value?
Well, for the Duke side, I think it's pretty easy. I mean, Bama's so talented. And like you said, Moses goes down, the linebacker, just announced hurt, tore ACL. They're still bringing in a five-star guy, just might be a freshman. They're going to lose a little bit, but Duke's just a complete X. Like, all of a sudden you went from 20 teams to 19 teams. The chances are really, really low of someone from Duke hitting value that week. As far as the Alabama side, you got to correlate your lineups accordingly. I think a good example is the Clemson versus Georgia Tech game tonight. And I think it's a similar situation. Maybe it's not a good idea to play a Clemson stack of Lawrence, Etienne, and maybe Ross or Higgins, because these guys, if they do well and they score a ton of points, they're probably all going to get pulled in the second half. And if Clemson scores 35 points before halftime, that's really good performance. But chances are their defense is so good, Georgia Tech's not scoring much, so you're never going to hit your upside stacking Clemson against a team like Georgia Tech, or stacking Alabama against a team like Duke, who's not going to score points to keep in the game, if that makes sense. So I think that the right strategy is just picking maybe one or two guys you hope to go off in that given game.
Right, and I just want to reiterate this as we're getting down to the nitty gritty here.
Yeah,
we won't be like NFL when we talk about college football, and there's multiple reasons. I mean, full disclosure, it's a niche sport with small slates, and while we're going to give away a lot of our edge, especially Bobby, we can't go down a slate like you would in NFL, because there's only so many teams that are going to be out there, and then so many advantages he has or I do. But I can assure you, if you go on our Slack tonight, he was as helpful as anybody, and I obviously will throw in as well. But when you're talking about a 10-game slate, so you got 20 quarterbacks, and probably instantly you can eliminate probably 6, and so you got like 14 you may choose from, but you can start 2. You can only ask so many questions without like giving up your full 8 teams, which we're never going to do, nor should we condone anybody giving away lineups and stuff like that. But that's why this pod was done to focus on overall strategy, thinking, how do you handle certain situations? And with that, I was going to ask you, so when you get to a slate like a Saturday, there's 20 teams. Do you look for anybody like, so there's only certain mini combinations, especially if you get down to, okay, here's the games the core guys are going to focus on. There's not as many angles to get deep sleepers or true sleepers and fade the chalk. Talk just a little bit about what does chalk and sleepers mean in college football compared to an NFL where you have 32 quarterbacks, you have, potential multiple guys running the ball, and you have that some in college. But in my view, and I'll just lead a little bit, is that you don't have to be as contrarian. You just have to pick your spots where you want to be. And I know you can go a little deeper than that, but how do you handle such a small slate where everybody's focusing on, for all intents and purposes, 4 to 6 of the same games for the majority of the points, versus a big NFL slate?
I think you got to pick your spots. I mean, tonight, for example, UC's playing UCLA, and Michael Warren was like 60% owned. Well, all of a sudden, as we're recording, he's going off for a few touchdowns here, and he's hitting value. And you could say, well, 60% is high owned. Actually, 60% is like, that's about what you're going to get from week to week in some college football guys, especially when they're underpriced. And then it becomes, well, do you have Warren or not? Because if you're the 40% that doesn't have Warren, you're at a huge disadvantage. So it's almost better to take the 60% with Warren and then differentiate yourself in lineup construction, or with your cheaper end guys to fit someone like Michael Warren, running back for Cincinnati, to make your team different in that way. So I think playing the chalk is more of a viable strategy in college football, which is way different than what you're looking at for golf each week.
Absolutely. And then we're talking last year when you had like a Tua or a Murray, was it just almost impossible to fade a Murray in that situation? Or did the price go, maybe I can fade him, but then you go back and you go, shit, he's playing Oklahoma State or West Virginia or Texas Tech, and the score, the total is going to be 90. How do I not? I mean, just future thinking for the new guys listening. How do you handle that situation?
If you just want to keep it so simple, and not every slate's going to be like this. I mean, we see the Millionaire Maker, some scores like the high 200s win, and then some weeks are scores were just at 200 wins. It's different every week for football. But if you just go and look at, like, all right, who's going to get 4x value? And Kyler Murray's 12,000. Like, he can absolutely get 48 points. And at that point, when someone's that high in the salary, and you talk about this with golf, you only need so many points to hit value, you only need so much return to hit value when you're a 12x player. It's probably more applicable to basketball in that regard. But at some point, 60 points is 48, 60 points is 48, 60 points. And it's hard to make that up with everyone else in the plate. So you just eat that chalk and then differentiate elsewhere.
Right. And that's a good point. Right. So there's a difference in being contrarian and, okay, well, I can get a guy that'll return 8x this week. Sure. Well, if 8x is 32 points, but if Curry goes for 5.5x and that's 65, how are you going to make up the other? It ain't a big score total. And so it's a great point to think about. It doesn't mean you got to play chalk all the time, but if the slate is saying, here's the score for the week, and you fade the guy that's going to be the highest scorer, one of them, you better hit the nuts in several other places. And that's what you're limiting your upside there. And so it's better to say, okay, I'll do that, but I'm going to try to steal this tight end or this slot receiver that not many guys are on, but I think he could have a huge game, or a up and coming running back. I mean, something that make it different. And especially if you're doing MME type stuff, if you're in 20, 30, 40 lineups in the, $10, $8, whatever, then you have options. But if you're doing, 1 to 3 max, you really got to be creative. But you got to remember that the other guys have got to be creative as well. So you don't have to always get so cute in those, especially in college football, different than we're talking about NFL. You have the total entries is so small or smaller. There's not as many combinations out there. So you really have to kind of think through a new process when you think about college football. And obviously, we'll help you throughout the season. And Bobby's articles are great to kind of walk you through without just giving you the answer. Is here's the what ifs, and here's all the scenarios, and here's the highs, here's the lows, here's the potential. And then you still got to make your decision for yourself. But at least you got a great starting point to do that. So, kind of wrap it up. I know we want to watch the last half of this game. Any preseason bets or predictions you have before I get your final four of the year?
I just have one team I'm not really high in this year is Wisconsin. Every team in the Big Ten West has gotten better the last couple of years. They play a tough schedule. They just lost Justin Wilcox, who's the defensive coordinator, to California, and he was awesome at Wisconsin. He's doing an awesome job at California. Now he should probably hire someone to get the offense under control in California, but the dude knows his defense. In addition, they lost tons of havoc on defense. And Wisconsin, for as good as they've been through the years, they actually really don't recruit that well. And it's my philosophy that the team with the most talent wins the majority of the time. And I really believe that you can't get lucky with 3 stars forever. They're not all going to turn out to be J.J. Watt. It's just not going to happen. So I think at some point, in all those factors, Wisconsin has to regress a little bit. And by regression, I mean they're in Vegas. They're supposed to win like 8.5 games. I see them winning 6 or 7 or maybe 8. I just don't see them winning over 8.5 games.
Yeah, I had Michigan State up a lot higher than what Vegas did this year, and I hadn't got to your Big Ten. You guys, go ahead, shout out your pod. I've listened to it since I found you last year. Yeah, talk about it and what you guys did in the preseason. So there's still time for people to catch up on that. It was a great series. I think I have 2 or 3 left, but yeah, talk us through that and give them a shout out.
Yeah, Power 5 cast. Just 5 of us guys, and my brother Joe's on it as well. He played Ohio State. Another guy, we got Jake Doyle. He's like the encyclopedia of college football. Dude knows everything. He eats, sleeps, lives, breathes it. And then Ray and Tony, they're all having a good time. They're talking just like the casual fan would. So I think it's a nice combination of people who are looking at it from the fan perspective. People are looking at it from the stats. He knows absolutely everything Jake does, recruiting, everything about these guys. And then you have Joe and I who play college football, but we're also highly analytical, kind of like you, Gup. So power5cast.com. I'll be on there doing a DFS show. It'll drop every Friday night. Actually going to record for Saturday after this show.
Right. And that's why we're not doing a DFS show on the GupsCorner side. Bobby's going to take the lead there, give the shout out, and he'll take care of us on that pod. Tambo and I will do NFL. Big special weeks. I'll try to get Bobby in if they're, like OU Texas week. I may do a special pod with him. Yeah, we'll do some fun stuff throughout the year, but the regular week we're going to push Bobby and his pod and give those guys some love. So if you're looking for a weekly, that's the one that I'll be listening to, and you can go check that out. My only deal, I haven't said it real publicly because I know guys like Adon will come after me. I do think Texas, and I think the Sharps wind up picking up. I mean, the love was high at first, and I waited too long because I was praying for a 10 over under 10 because I was going to absolutely hammer the under massively. And it went the other way the last week before I went out to Vegas, and it got in some spots it got down to 9, and it's a fine line for me. I went through the schedule many times, and that's where I have them at. It's kind of 8.5, 9. And so when it was 9.5, Steven up to 10 quick, I was like, man, and it had nothing to do with OU. I just think that's their team's a little bit young, and I think they'll be, if nothing else changes, I think they'll be, set to win the Big 12 next year, way more than this year, assuming they mature. And I don't know if OU will as well. They got holes, obviously. But it's just, I just think there was an overreaction to them, hammering Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. And I was really hoping to get on that, but I didn't. They're going to be a great team. And, it's always going to come down to the Cotton Bowl, in my opinion. But to wrap it up, who is your preseason Final Four as of right now?
People are going to hate to hear this, but I got to go chalk. Like, I don't think people realize just how much better the Blue Bloods of college football are than your just average run-of-the-mill teams. So I'm going to go Clemson, Alabama, and then they have down here Oklahoma and Ohio State. So I'm going to take one from each region there. And who do you got, Gup?
Yeah, I've flirted back and forth. I haven't really given it yet. In the last 2 days, I was like, where can I really, really like LSU this year. I know they have some holes. I think that was one of my big reasons, and it'll be one of my big bets. I'm kind of waiting on line movement. I think if Texas looked good this weekend, it'll move in the favor I want it to. I love LSU to beat Texas next week. I may be in the minority there. I don't know. But if that number gets to a plus side, we could have our first 6-star of the year. And those are very rare for me. But I believe that much in it. So I'm going to go – I think Clemson slips up somewhere. And I don't know how. I don't know where. But I think even last year they escaped several times. I don't know that that's enough to knock them out. Their conference is so weak that it's really tough for them to make it if they lose. So I'm going to go Alabama, LSU, Oklahoma, and then kind of the sleeper who I think I've already picked Saturday. I think they run the table after they beat Auburn, and I think Oregon's going to be undefeated. I think there'll be controversy because I think just the way it plays out that they may not be the 4th best team, but if they're undefeated in the Pac-12, I don't see how they don't get in.
Sure.
So that's who I'm going to go with those 4. And I will say I think Spencer Rattler will be playing in the Final Four for OU, not Jalen Hurts by the time the season gets there, which people will say, well, how does that happen? I don't know if it's an injury or if it's just hurt. I think Spencer's a special guy, a good really, really, really good quarterback that can lead it. And he fits the system better than Jalen, but I do respect Jalen's leadership and where he's been, and it's his to lose, and I think he'll do fine. But if he struggles in one of these early games where they should dominate, I could see Spencer getting some time and looking really good. And if not, I think Spencer will at least play a lot, kind of like Kyler did at times with Baker. I see that situation happening, which is fine as well. I just hope the D does finally just survive a little bit. I think they showed life the last 3 or 4 games, especially Texas in the Big 12 game. They had that like kind of a little bit of swagger, especially the big stop at the end of the game in their own end zone, get the turnover. I mean, it can't get worse. We know that, and you just have to survive in the Big 12. But that's kind of where I'm at. And then who do you have winning it all out of those 4?
Quick side note: I'm actually higher on LSU and Michigan State than most as well this year. Both of them return a ton.
Nice. We're both on them.
Yeah, Texas loses their entire front 7, 2 secondary, and actually their junior recruiting class. Let's see here. It only ranked 25th in S&P, and for Texas, I mean that's pretty.
Well, and they lost. I mean, wide receivers they lost were massive blows for them as well.
Massive blows.
Yeah, it wasn't because they like all of a sudden sucked.
Right.
It's a great point. It wasn't like I'm not saying Texas sucks. They lost a lot. That's what I'm fearful of. It has nothing to do with the talent. It's just they got a lot to replace this year.
Yeah, and those young players, like you said, next year they're going to be really good. And Ellinger, I mean, the way he plays and the way they have to score points is they have to run the ball with him. And I'm not sure how he's kind of fragile, unfortunately, which is kind of sad because he's a great player. So a little tangent there, but I got Alabama winning it all. I think they've had plenty of years where guys get hurt, everyone overreacts, and they just forget just how good they are.
I agree. I see him bouncing back this year. The Moses deal did hurt me a little bit. I think people are down on Tua because of his last, his performance. Obviously, he was hurt, and then he came back and didn't play well versus Clemson. I think they're the best 2. I think Clemson has a better chance of not even getting there because if they lose, I think they don't make it on a 1-loss season. And I think that could be the argument. I could see Oregon undefeated. They did play Auburn this year, which is way better step up for them than some years. And Clemson, like running the table and losing like a last-second game, and that's their only loss. And they go, Clemson's a better 1 loss than Oregon type of deal, but we know how to work out. But I have Alabama winning it all as well. Chalk City, but you're right that the distance between the good, the best, and then the next level is massive in the college football compared to NFL. Right under an hour tonight. That's how we want to keep it. Hopefully help you guys get some basics. Again, free preview on all the tools through Sunday. It's a great time to come check out everything on the site. I will be back next Wednesday night with Tambo, 9:00 Eastern for the CoinFlip. In 2 weeks when the fall swing returns, we will still have a smash factor most weeks, depending on how scheduling goes. And then on Wednesdays, what we're going to do, we're just going to go back to back. We're going to do a 30-minute E9 real quick because it's fall swing. I mean, there's only so much to digest. We'll have some content's going to be big because we're going to do some different angles, and then we're going to back it up with the live coin flip on Wednesday nights. Saturday night, starting next week, will be our live Audible, so our live YouTube chat like we did for the E9 on the golf side. So we got you covered 7 days a week. Come check us out. DM us if you got questions. Last but not least, JB's going to have to get in my ear so I don't screw this up. I believe the GC FFLs are sold out completely, but maybe one platinum is still open. Platinum only is open. Super 7 is up, unlimited there, 3 max per user. The first survivor pool is sold out. The second one, I don't know how many is left, but it'll sell out as well. Don't wait. All contests close. I got to wait for JB again. I think it's September 4th, but I don't want to misspeak. September 4th. So don't come to us September 5th and be like, I need to get in. You've had like 6 weeks to get in. And here's another reminder, and we're going to blast it on Twitter. Great contests. They're amazing. They're fun. We've doubled and tripled up every session now between golf football in the last 2 years. They're growing. Best of all, it's 100% payout. We keep nothing. It's just to help us is to grow the brand. You guys supporting us, spreading the word, liking iTunes, rating reviews. We don't charge anything for it. We don't keep a penny. JB donates a shit ton of time to handle it all. Melinda's knocked out the website compared to what it was a year ago. It's amazing. Go check them out. I had this question asked a lot, and I guess we don't talk about it. You do not have to be a member of GupsCorner. Obviously, we prefer you to be, but you don't have to. The contest link on the website, GupsCorner.com, click contest. It's open to everybody. You don't have to be a member. So I had people thinking they couldn't even go look at it. You can go look at it. You can sign up. You do have to sign up separately on there because obviously it's 2 different platforms, same domain, but you don't have to be a member. You can just go check it out, sign up for free on the contest subdomain, and enter it. You know, and then hopefully you want to join us, and we're going to have some articles and some stuff as we grow to help give you guys a little bit of advantage in tracking, especially once we get to the golf side. But September 4th is the deadline. Don't email us. Don't DM afterwards. It's locked. It's not going to open again. Good luck. Week 1 college football. Hopefully no big injuries tonight in NFL. I doubt anybody's playing. I'll have some articles coming out over the next 4 or 5 days talking about, once the depth charts are set, my first version of the power rankings for NFL. I rank every team 1 through 32 on a power ranking scale. I have a home field advantage chart I'm debuting this year. And so lots of cool content tools, 25% off, use the code NFL. We'll see you next week. Have a good weekend.